There is something so cool about a huge powered glider like this. Something that is frankly pretty easy to hand launch and flies fantastic. This is a real crowd pleaser, and I found that it was incredibly easy to fly and do all the cool fun aerobatics you want, and we're going to get into all of that. I'm going to go through the assembly, which is pretty simple. Field assembly is great, and then all of the setup and flight characteristics. Let's get into it. This is what I would consider a huge plane for me in my shop. Can't assemble it in the shop because it's just too darn big. So I store it and travel with it in the box and then assemble it at the field. Because it's all quick connect, which I'll show you, pretty easy. One of the harder parts is just getting it out of the doggone box. Let's get into it. These things are packaged so well. Why wouldn't I use the box for storage? First things first, you will need a stand. This is one of my PVC pool noodle stands. Works great for this application. In fact, I always have it in the truck. So throw down the large fuselage, and next we're going to slide in a really beautiful piece of carbon fiber tubing that is going to hold the wings on. I'm going to slide these wings on, and it's really important that you make sure that the clips on the underside actually activate. When you slide the wing on, you'll actually hear a click. If you don't, make sure just flip it over and push those clips to the outside edges. The tail slides on with this carbon fiber tube that you'll shove into that tail section. It's going to slide in, and you're going to connect the rudder and elevator. It's a little fiddly, I got to be honest. And then you have to shove those cables, and those are the connectors, the locking plugs. You got to shove those into this hole, and then slide on the vertical stabilizer. It locks in place, and you'll see it's keyed in, so you slide it and then rotate it. I found that to make sure that those cables don't get in the way, I pull them from the fuselage. I got them marked, and it's just easy for me to kind of pull on them a little bit to feed them through, and then it locks in place, and we're good. The horizontal stabilizer slides in. There's a little track, and there's a pin underneath that's spring-loaded that will detach that. I'll pull on that spring. There's a little hoop there. Slide it on and make sure it's locked in place. All right, now we're fully assembled, but let's check to make sure that everything is assembled properly. So we're going to double check to make sure the wings are on right, and I'm going to go through and make sure the easy connects that are on everything are locked down well. Setup is pretty simple. I went by the manual and went with high rates on everything and about 15 to 20% expo for my liking. Yours might vary. For battery, I went with a 6S 5000 milliamp battery that weighed around 750 grams. Used the CG of around 95 millimeters from the leading edge, and now we're ready to go. By the way, if you're interested in getting this plane, there's a link in the description below and a 10% discount code, StephenRC. Hand launching's pretty simple. You just power it up and throw it. Now, let me be clear. It's important to throw it up, not just out like on these two. So when I powered it up and threw it with an upward angle, here are the results. So in this flight, I'm going to just show examples of how I like to fly this plane, which is some aerobatics, but a lot is just cutting that throttle and letting it glide around. Today's wind is probably around 8 to 10 miles an hour coming left to right. So I'll take advantage of that in a couple cases, trying to slow it down for landings and maybe doing some touch and goes, which is fun. But all in all, I'm going to kind of narrate through some of the things I'm doing on the flight. Enjoy. Of course, one of the most important things a glider should do is glide. And this big 3-meter glider does it very well. Chop the throttle, especially with a little headwind, and it'll just cruise along without any power. Now it is an aerobatic sport glider, but here you'll see I just didn't have enough speed. I had chopped the throttle, dove down a little bit, and obviously the loop was a little, it was horrible. But with a lot of power, a lot more speed, if you do want to chop the throttle and do some loops and rolls while gliding, it'll do that as well. One of the things I really enjoy about the plane is what you're seeing here, is just coming out of a maneuver where I'm up high, dive down, hit a little bit of flap, and just retain some of that energy and just do these nice slow flybys, which I'll also show we're doing touch and goes because it'll have no problem doing that as well. Really fun flyer for this kind of stuff. To me, this is great.
Flaps up.
That's the other part I really enjoy, is powering up, and plenty of power on this plane obviously, and chopping that throttle and just doing a close flyby at some speed. That whooshing sound, it sounds fantastic. The wind started increasing a little bit, so on this portion of the flight, I just chopped throttle and decided to glide around using the rudder, trying to keep the wings flat. To retain basically the same altitude. That was my goal here, is to just kind of do some slow turns and retain altitude. And I think I actually, with the wind, started increasing altitude. I wish I had some telemetry or turned on telemetry to give me that, but it's kind of fun to try to do that as a challenge. You'll see that the rudder is quite effective. Touch and goes are pretty simple, and this thing is very gentle on landings with some flap. Just make sure you don't apply throttle until you're cleared your prop off the ground.
Time remaining 4 minutes. Take off flaps.
Why not do another touch and go with a glider?
Flaps up.
More than enough power.
I've had a handful of powered gliders, and they all fly well. For me, the size of this, it's so impressive. It's just a beast, it's a monster, and it gets a lot of attention at the field, and I kind of like that. So for me, great plane. It's not a total beginner plane, but it is a very easy plane to fly. After you kind of figure out how to take off, land, and fly, and have good skills on your trainer and maybe a second plane, this would be a really neat plane to have in your hangar. So if you have any questions, leave a comment. Obviously, if you like these videos, hit that like, and have a great day.